Greetings, everyone. I don't have a catchy introduction slogan like Intaro Dune this time. Jack, do you know if the Terran say anything normal, like all the time?
Probably greetings.
We'll just go with Jim Raynor's "Stay Frosty."
Hey, man.
Hey, man, stay frosty. Yeah. Anyways, we are back. We're talking about what I consider to be a very unique, probably the most unique chapter in all of StarCraft, just because it's exclusive. We were talking earlier about this, but when you get into StarCraft lore, generally it's all very linked together. It's hard to have a discussion without Jim Raynor, without talking about Kerrigan. It's hard to have a discussion without the Protoss, without talking about Zeratul. And they're all kind of linked. All their stories, all their paths kind of meet up in the end. But what makes Episode 5, which is the Terran campaign in Brood War, unique, is the simple fact that we have a new faction of Terran that are introduced to us. And what I find fascinating about this faction of Terran, which are called the U.E.D., the United Earth Directorate, is the fact that this faction of Terran exclusively comes from Earth. Usually when we see these heavy sci-fi franchises, whenever you see humans, we always naturally just assume, oh yeah, that's us in the future, they're from Earth. That's usually how it is. But in StarCraft, the majority of the time, the Terran, at one point, yes, they were from Earth, but they were exiled. They were sent off into space, and they built their own civilization, became their own group of people. And now, in Brood War, all of a sudden, this scouting party, this faction, this small group led by, I was looking into it. We have 3 characters that are very specific that get introduced to this campaign. You have the general, who is Gerard DuGalle. We have Alexei Stukov and Samir Duran. All these people are coming here from Earth, and apparently DuGalle was like the best general in the U.E.D. military. And this is a unique expedition they send these guys on, so it's not like this giant, the whole entire force of the U.E.D. comes. No, the U.E.D. is strong and powerful. It's just we see a small group of them, and so they have to kind of make up for what they have to face off. Well, they've never seen Zerg and Protoss before, and so they're trying to take the Confederacy into their own hands. So keep that in mind. This is an introduction to a storyline that we don't really get to see much more. The U.E.D. just kind of, not necessarily disappear, but they kind of fall off the map after this one. So we're going to talk about this campaign. We're going to dive into there. So like last time, we have the same panel. We got Jackson and Anthony. Appreciate you guys being here. We almost had Ian. I'm not going to go into the details there, but hopefully he's going to be in the next one where we finally talk about Sarah Kerrigan. So thanks, guys, for coming on. You have anything to add to that?
No. I think I'll just have things to say about the individual missions, so good to jump in.
Nice.
Yes, I would probably say, I don't know if this is a scouting party, because they came in with initial directives to take over the Terra Dominion.
So I think you're right. It's not necessarily a scouting party, but it was not. It was a small piece of the whole U.E.D. army. Does that make more sense?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it was pretty big, because it was enough with no reinforcements to take over the Dominion.
Well, see, that's what I'm going to ask, though, is on the 2nd level, we literally try to hijack all of Mink's battlecruisers. So we kind of make our own fleet.
Right, but it's also crippling his fleet at the same time.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. So let's hop in here. This is the Terran campaign to Brood War. One thing I always want to specifically point out is the new features that Brood War brought in compared to the original game. We already talked about the landscapes, like they added the desert and snow levels. This campaign is the first campaign where we actually play on the desert maps, and I actually love the desert maps because they're so different. But I'll be honest with you, playing those desert maps for more than an hour, it's like my eyes start to hurt. They're bright. It's bright. And then we have 2 new units added to the Terran. One of them's the Medic, and one's the Valkyrie. let's talk about those for a sec. What are your guys' thoughts on the Valkyrie and the medic?
Well, I will say that there's a part of me that hardly even remembers what the Valkyrie did anymore, which I'm sure will change in just a second. But the medics, that was what the Terran were missing all along. Oh my goodness! Once you have a good set of medics with a team of Marines, suddenly they're almost like long range Protoss. You can actually have them survive more than 2 hits. So
yeah,
I loved the medics.
It's almost hard to play Terran without medics once you have them. Because it's such a game changer when you have your little group of 10 Marines all of a sudden like, hey, they can't die anymore. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it completely changes the strategies, how you actually play Terran with the medics now involved. As Anthony said, that Marines can actually survive a hit, so they're a lot more valuable units now.
It's a good point. Yeah, very.
Plus,
go ahead.
I was going to say, plus now stimming is actually a pretty solid strategy.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And in fact, I don't always get myself in the habit of using stim. With medics, I should have been using it more. I usually use stim when it's like close to the end, and I'm like, okay, I want to destroy these guys. But I don't always use it because I think I don't use stim that much because I'm always spending resources on upgrades that I really want, and stim is not something I pick right away.
Right. Yeah, I usually save it for later as well, but I definitely noticed that. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, they just made that a really viable strategy.
You're like, oh my goodness. Nothing's funnier though than when 2 medics, like everyone's dead but 2 medics, and they just sit there healing each other while you're trying.
Oh my gosh!
You're like, oh, what are you doing?
Just like that Carbot video. I get it now.
Yeah,
the Z-lot on the medics.
Dude, I will say this though: there is one thing about the medics that drives me nuts, and I wish there was a way to kind of command them to stay behind my units. Yeah, because like I remember if you have a group of Marines and medics and you go to attack a bunker, well, the Marines are going to intentionally stay back, but since they're not being hurt, the medics will go right at the bunker, and it's like, no, you're getting in the fire bat range, and they don't need to be there.
Right.
And, it's like there's a problem with how their movement can be. They'll like put themselves right in the front because your guys potentially sit back, so they just keep walking, and it's like, no, stop.
Yeah. I mean, I've found ways to kind of use some micro to help with that. Like one thing that I would do when I was kind of getting near the end of the the Terran campaign is I would try to take like a group of Marines, and then I would have like 2 or 3 medics, and I would tell the medics to follow one of the Marines in the group, and then I would command the Marines as a group to go, and then presumably since they're following, they would stay behind. But sometimes, especially when you do something that erases that command, it's just kind of hard to keep track, especially when you're getting, hammered. So, it's not an elegant solution. It's possible, but there's too much going on. I wasn't consistent with things like that, because at the end I was like, oh my gosh, just drag and attack. What are you doing? So man.
Sometimes the action and everything just happens so fast that it's like by the time you're like I'm gonna use the strategy in your head, they're all dead.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Game's really, really fast paced as far as that goes.
Yeah. So yeah, my micro is not good enough. But I was just pointing out there are ways, just not for plebs like me, I guess.
Well, fair enough. No, appreciate that. Going into the Valkyrie unit, it's not a unit that Okay, so all 3 of the new units out of them, there's the Devourer, the Zerg, the Corsair, the Protoss, and Valkyrie. All 3 can only attack air units, and each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses. The Valkyrie, though, if I'm not mistaken, that thing, if you have them in like a large group of numbers, they are just crazy deadly, because they send a AoE effect like
Mm-hmm.
multiple missiles that break off. And so if you have a giant armada of Valkyries, you will tear down any air offense really fast.
Oh, I bet they would do really well against carriers.
Yeah.
Yes, actually,
I don't know if
yes.
they'd actually work against carriers. I think it's more light units like Mutilas. So I know that you did a point of that in the campaign where they completely destroy Mutilas because of their AoE damage.
The one thing I will say, so I'm remembering better now about the Valkyries. The one thing that kind of bugged me, I liked how, I mean, they were really good at being aggressive to air units, but their DPS left something to be desired. I'm seeing this screen lighting up with explosions, and yet I'm like, that the enemies are still there after like 10 full seconds. What are you guys doing? And
yeah, it's when they're in small numbers, they're not very strong.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm talking
I think
about
it's just the AoE effect. They're good of groups, not individual.
Correct.
I don't know. I was doing a mission where I probably had at least half a dozen Valkyries, and I'm like, that you guys are doing peanuts.
Yeah, if you had, let's say, 12 Wraiths and 12 Valkyries, your 12 Wraiths will kill a single unit faster than your 12 Valkyries. Your 12 Valkyries are better at fighting a big group rather than... So maybe 12 Wraiths will be better against carriers because they can all single target one.
Gotcha.
I don't know. That's good. It's a good point.
Well, anyway.
Depends how many carriers, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, a Valkyrie, a group of Valkyries fighting a bunch of carriers, if the interceptors were in the range, they could essentially kill all the interceptors.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. Like
Yeah.
it would be a lot easier to deal with the source of damage.
Yeah, that's very possible. But I can't say I've actually experimented enough and seen how Valkyries would handle themselves against carriers, so that would be interesting. And then, of course, you can't go without mentioning the classic Blizzard using their sexy female approach to these units. Both the medic and the Valkyrie were some sexy female girl. And don't keep me waiting.
Yeah, the thick German accent.
Yeah.
Or where does it hurt?
Yeah. And she's always winking. Just like, good job. Wow, thanks, Blizzard. Yeah, so that's full front in there. So talking about the story, we intentionally did not talk about the opening cinematic in the last episode because the opening cinematic in this game straight up opens up the plot for the U.E.D. So it's kind of funny how I'm thinking when people originally got this game and see that cinematic and it introduces DuGalle and Stukov, they're like, yes, I am prepared to go all the way. And then it goes into Protoss and you don't see them for a whole campaign. Like, wait, where's that leading up to? But it obviously gets there. But that cinematic I always remember was pretty cool because it had that World War I, World War II trench theme. Only it's Marines and Zergs, and you got the fighting the Zerg would just be the worst. Let's just put it that way.
It's the guy sitting there listening to music.
Yeah,
Charge here.
who's in charge? That always kind of confused me. Where he's like, "Who's in charge here?" And he just points up to the battle cruiser. I'm like, "What are you doing, dude? Like, who's in charge here? Like, you're in the middle of a war zone. I think you should just be worrying about not dying." So
I don't know, it could have been. Where was that battle? Because it could have been like a colonist. So then there's like the U.E.D coming in.
That's a good question. Probably. Because there's a lot to take from it. It's a little vague intentionally. It's mainly just to kind of introduce us to those U.E.D generals and show that they're planning something and then go from there. And then poor Marines on the end get eviscerated and that's it. End of story.
Yep.
I mean, we can only assume that he died. But, this is a world. This is a world of sequels and stuff. They could be like, well, he's back.
He'll be the major villain of StarCraft 3.
His origin story.
I'm pretty sure right now the major villain of StarCraft 3 is Blizzard.
Yeah, there's a good observation right there.
Yeah.
So they obviously, I liked what they did here with Brood War. They threw a distinctive theme between the two Terran factions, the Confederacy or the what are they called now under Arcturus Minx? They're no longer the Confederacy.
The
Dominion. The Dominion. They're still the same guys. They got the Southern accents. They got the crazy personalities, but they made the U.E.D more proper, and basically have their German and Russian accents. And so there's your way to completely separate them. So it was a nice little touch there, I think.
Yeah.
So I will say this. I remember writing this down on my notes just because, first of all, remember how we always talked about how SCVs constantly get stuck?
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it the other day, and I thought, because I don't have any notes of drones or probes getting stuck. And I realized why. It's because, one, probes, you just don't get stuck. You have them manually build everything and then walk away. Once they build the building, they walk away. Drones turn into buildings, so they can't get stuck. So Marines are literally the perfect unit to just be... leave them alone once they start building. The first level of this Brood War campaign, I got a Marine stuck behind a bunch of supply depots 3 times. 3 times. Like, it was like... and it was so funny because that was coming away from playing Zerg and Protoss twice. I played Protoss twice and Zerg, hadn't had that problem for 3 whole campaigns. And the second I played Terran on the first level, I get the thing stuck 3 times, and it reminded me of when I played Terran the first, and I kept getting them stuck. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Terran at their glory right here. Is stuck SCVs.
Yep. I had the greatest moment ever, though, because I was building a supply depot near the high ground, and the SCV gets stuck behind it and starts, wigging out, trying to get unstuck because they're in the area they can't be in. And he just goes onto the high ground. And I'm like, that just happened? He just literally is now on the high ground.
So now you can start building missile turrets.
Yep, I mean, that's what I did, but...
Don't tell the speedrunners that exploit you found there. You somehow get your SCV on the high ground through building. That's amazing.
completely skipped past the dropship upgrade tier.
Except it was in a level where it had dropship, so it didn't even matter. But
that's fine.
Plus, well, then again, if you could get one SUV on the high ground, you could cause a ruckus if you just start building like barracks and everything.
Yep.
I guess you could. Yeah, that's a wow. Yeah. That's an interesting one.
Best thing you can do, if you get thrown up there on the high ground, you just you build an engineering bay with with the extension, and then you just pop out a bunch of siege tanks.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, then you have
do
your siege tanks up on the high ground. Yeah, that's
free high ground right there.
Free high ground. I remember the second level. That's where you collect all the battle cruisers, and I liked that. I thought that was pretty fun. It's where you have to get all the civilians to go onto the platform, and then you get the battle cruiser. Because it's funny, because obviously being as a kid, I went through all these missions, but I went through all these missions using cheats when I beat Brood War for the first time. So, funny story. You want to know why I never even gave Brood War a fair shake as a kid?
Why is that?
Because when I originally played Brood War, so I originally tried to beat some of the original campaigns in the first game, right? But they gave me some challenge, so I just put in the cheat so I could see the story. But Brood War, I don't know what it was, but I had this certain stigma, this reputation the expansion gave me that I figured it was impossible. Like, you could only beat Brood War if you were like the best. Like, only elite players can beat it. That's what I thought. And it's because as I was going through these levels, putting in the cheats, I think it's level 4. It's like a desert map. The opening throws you in a loop. It's where you have this whole base come into play, and all of a sudden you get nuked like 7 times. Like, all these nukes. Nuclear launch, and then what happens is it takes out almost all your base, and now you're back down to a command center and like a couple SUVs. So that was obviously just for dramatic effect, just to be like, oh, you think you got this base, but you don't, right?
That's
yeah.
That's the mission that you can I think it's either based on the mission you do beforehand. You either take out the nukes, or you take out the battle cruisers and you deal with the other one. Yep.
Right.
I ended up I took out the nukes because I did not want to deal with that.
You took. Oh yeah, no, me too.
Yeah.
I looked at it. It didn't even take me long. I'm like, no, I'll fight battle cruisers.
Yeah. all I need for that is a ghost with lockdown. I can handle that a lot better than nukes.
Yeah. Like, or you could build a group of Goliaths. You know, like
Yeah.
I ain't gonna deal with. The thought of just hearing the nuke and trying to find a ghost is stressful to me. But the funny thing is, the realization is what is quite frequent in this campaign is sometimes these ghosts will come and try to nuke you, and they're not cloaked, so they don't make it that hard. I've had some. I literally watched, and it wasn't even on this level. It was on a further level up where it was a Zerg level. It was one of the Zerg levels where I just saw a ghost just walk right into my sunken colony and try to nuke my base. I'm like, what are you doing? like, what are you doing? Like, this is the dumbest. I thought the ghosts were like these elite trained assassins, and he's just like, just gets killed by the second colony. but I was. It gave this impression on me where that whole like all these nukes destroy you. I was I don't know why it didn't occur to me. I was just thinking, oh yeah, that was just there for dramatic effect. I really thought that like if you were a good player, you were somehow supposed to stop those nukes. I was like, nope, I am never beating this expansion ever, and so I never even gave it a shot.
I mean, there's a part of me that doesn't blame you.
Yeah.
Those missions were still nuts.
Dude, some missions in this expansion are a headache. I was straight up saying that.
I don't remember which number it is. I think it was one of the earlier missions, but there's one where they put you kind of in like the southwestern section of the map. It's like a little southwest of the center, and you have 4 other Terran bases on each corner of the map, and they just come and just sweep.
Isn't that just level 4 where you have to choose whether to kill the nukes or the battle cruisers?
Is that the one?
I think
I'm pretty sure that's the one.
I think that's the one. And
Okay.
yeah, that one for the first half where you just have to get your grounding set. It was obnoxious. It's like, oh, okay, I just defended. Oh, and I can't remember how many times I had to get an SCV to go repair a building. Oh, that's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's on fire. Okay, now that I'm fine, all of a sudden another attack comes in. I'm like, stop.
Okay, yeah. If that's the mission we're talking about, yeah. Even with not dealing with the nukes, that was still. Oh man, I remember like I had to load so many flipping times, and the only way that I ended up winning is the base just southwest of me. I had a high ground. I just put some siege tanks over there, a bunch of bunkers, and then just let them break themselves on me as I blew up everything. And that was the only way I could actually start making any headway. That mission, oh my gosh.
Hey, if it works, it works, right?
Yeah.
That's how I say. In an RTS game, as long as you can beat the mission, you did nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure.
It might not look as
cheated.
awesome as you know, one of those Korean deity characters.
Don't worry, I know I'm not even playing anything like those guys.
No, dude, what you mean you aren't? Dude, I do it all the time.
Oh yeah. Oh, wise one. So
I mean, that's definitely how you made it sound earlier. I'm complaining to this guy. So we're talking about the Terran campaign, but I'm in the middle of the Zerg campaign of Brood Wars, and there's a mission that's kind of bugging me right now. So I was taking a short break, but I was just complaining about it on our Discord that we share, and Jackson's like, "Oh yeah, I had some time and I was curious, so I went and beat it." And I was like, "Thanks, Jackson."
I saw that. He was like, hey, I just would have played it. It was pretty... He should have just been, like, super easy. Barreling inconvenient.
I said it for him.
You did, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I'll be
So
honest,
this
it
guy-
took me longer than it should have because I'm an idiot and I had my overlord away from my army, and I had like 7 units. And one lurker killed all of them while I was looking for an overlord.
Oh, man.
It's like, well, that just happened. And then
It's so funny how I've had those moments where you're like, despite the fact that you have 100 overlords, you'll just be like, where are my overlords?
Yeah, and he's like, I had him upgraded, but he was so far away, and I'm like, is he gonna ever get here? I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have ran.
Yeah, you should have just ran away. Anyways, let's go back to Terran.
Sorry about that.
All right, so I guess I'll say this because Alex made me do the nuke level because
Let me explain why I asked him to do that, because I know I chose to fight the battlecruisers. I know Anthony chose to fight the battlecruisers. The other night I asked Ian, I'm like, what did you choose? He's like, oh, I think I chose to fight the battlecruisers. And then Jackson chose to fight the battlecruisers. I think there's just something within a normal human being to say, I don't want to fight nukes.
So I think I did nukes the first time, but I could not remember because they're both so similar.
Okay.
But so I did do the nukes this time. After you beat it, you have like A and B. You can just choose from the level. That'll be either nukes or battlecruisers.
Mm-hmm.
The nukes was extremely easy, is what I was saying.
Really?
So,
You're saying we picked the hard one?
Yep, I'm saying you picked the hard one.
Are you
because
serious?
all you needed to do was, I just had 12 battlecruisers go in with a science vessel. I'd just destroy all the ghosts. I had 3 medics that would restore lockdowns, and that's how I won. It was extremely easy.
So,
and the ghosts, all you have to do is put a turret and some siege tanks in the high ground, and the turret will find the ghosts before they can, when they get enraged, even when they're cloaked, and your siege tank just takes them out.
So I kid you not.
All right.
I honestly always imagine that those ghosts are going to try to strategically go into a hard place for you to find, like a human player. But I didn't realize that we're not fighting a human player.
Yeah, you're fighting 90s AI, dude.
We are fighting 90. I can't even believe I didn't even think of that. So in other words, yeah, I guess you're right. Because I was going to ask if it was any more difficult in the beginning when you didn't have your battlecruiser armada.
No. They do not start with nukes right away. It only comes later.
Wait,
they
really?
give you a little
Are
time
you
to
serious?
compute.
Dude, they
Oh my
send
God.
battlecruisers.
Yeah, so
Battlecruisers come right away.
Yeah, they come at you like right away.
In the beginning, this is what happens with the battlecruiser. So the battlecruiser comes in, they wipe out your base, basically everything. You barely, get them off. What happens with the nuke level is they nuke your outer line bases, and then they have here's your reinforcements, and have this giant army come down from the U.E.D. And then you just hear nuclear launch, nuclear launch, nuclear launch, nuclear launch, and they just destroy all of it.
Okay, so remember how I mentioned earlier how that whole thing made me think the campaign was impossible?
Yeah.
That's what I'm remembering. Because when I was a kid, I obviously chose to destroy the battlecruisers first with the cheats. And because you get nuked like 15 times, and I thought a good player was supposed to stop all that. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So they destroy your entire base at the beginning. Your center is just barely online. They give you some SCVs that you can repair it. You go off.
Okay, wow. That makes more sense. Well,
then I'll just say then that I guess that means I beat it on hard mode. So
yay!
You're the best.
You're the best there's ever been.
You're just you have Korean blood in you.
I mean, except for that, it's Zerg 4 is not super easy, barely an inconvenience. So.
Well, the other way you can look at it is you probably just have a better grasp of playing Terran and Protoss and Zerg.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. See, that's the funny thing, and I don't want to derail us too much, but I remember finding the Zerg the easiest to figure out when I was playing the base game. And I remember, getting some really solid, swarm strats going. But I don't know what it is. I know Brood War is harder on average than the base game, but I try to do this, similar things. I'm upgrading constantly. I'm, getting swarms sent all over the place. I have sunken colonies and spore colonies all over the place, and all it takes is, one wave, and somehow it's all gone. Anyway.
It's very possible that this is the final campaign of basically StarCraft 1. And I think they did try to go out of their way and make it a little difficult. I have had some levels on the Zerg campaign actually challenge me a bit. It's funny because I haven't had that point yet where I just straight up annihilated and destroyed. I'm like, oh, I gotta start all over. I was beaten on the last Protoss level when the Zerg just went to the temple, and I was like, all my guys were on the other side of the map, like, oh no. But my moments have been where I just start feeling overwhelmed, and it's just constantly I'm being berated, and then I'm sitting there trying to do something and nothing's working, and I just like sit at the screen. I'm just like, this is really starting to stress me out.
Yeah, that's me.
I've had some of those moments on the Zerg campaign. So, but we'll talk about that next time.
Next time. Sorry.
Next time. No, it's fine.
All right, tune in next time.
Tune in next time. All right, good lesson, guys. Bye. Okay, so obviously at the end of level 5, where we have to fight either the battlecruisers and the nukes, it's funny because I probably only beat Brood War once with cheats as a kid, so there was generally stuff that I was seeing again that I completely forgot. And I was like, in my head, like, okay, I'm the U.E.D. and we're going to arrest Arcturus Minx to kill him, but how the heck does he get out of this? I completely forgot. And so when you get to that moment where they're like, we're going to take you in, and he's like, this is completely unnecessary. And then all of a sudden Jim Raynor and Phoenix and the guys show up, and they're like, fat chance, and like teleport him out of there. I was like, what the heck is going on?
Was my reaction.
Like, Jim Raynor in this expansion has turned into an Ex Machina character, where he just like shows up, says something, and then leaves.
Yeah. See you later,
See you later.
I'm just like, why doesn't he play that way when I'm using him?
Right. But yeah, I was just like, what is happening? And I got 3 or 4 levels left on the Zerg campaign, and then I'll start to see more of it. I just remember bits and pieces. I remember the big ending, but I don't remember like why some of these little things are happening. So we'll see. So because then Raynor leaves, and yeah, and then the U.E.D. get mad, and then
well, okay, I will say I don't understand, and that's still the case even in the middle of the Zerg campaign. I don't understand Raynor and Phoenix's motivations. I'm not clear on, first of all, why they'd be helping Minsk of all people at all. And that only gets more confusing in the Zerg campaign. It was very strange, because I played a lot of, the Terran campaign and Brood War thinking, I can I feel like I understand the U.E.D's perspective here, because Minsk, if you think about it, he's the one to thank for everything that's gone wrong. I mean, he created Kerrigan for all intents and purposes, so he's the one to blame for everything. And so when the U.E.D. comes to take him down and restore order, I'm like, yeah, they seem like the good guys. I mean, I guess it kind of, their mileage varies a bit. Stukov was probably, as we'll talk about a little bit later, he's one of the best, but I don't know. It was funny to me. I'm like, I think they have the high ground, and then that happened, and I was like, no, I don't understand anymore. So,
right. I'm still kind of sitting here waiting for this grand scheme to unfold itself. But to your point, saying Minx caused all this, he did. I mean, he's clearly antagonist in the story, but we're seeing that as the player's perspective. I don't think the U.E.D. even knows who Kerrigan is. I don't think they care so much about that. And I don't know if the U.E.D. Can anyone confirm this? Does the U.E.D. know if Minx brought the Zerg to destroy Tarsanis?
Because I think Duran mentioned it.
Maybe Duran
that they knew what the psi disruptors were.
Okay, the psi. Maybe that's it. The psi disruptors. I think they figured.
Well, they talked about the psi disruptor, which was a completely different thing from the psi emitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure they knew about the psi emitters.
So yeah,
because they seem to have knowledge of Meeks before they got there. So they must have had somewhere way to observe them.
It's safe to say they probably do know. I will tell you this, is that in one of the StarCraft novels called I, Minx, it's actually one of the better novels in the whole. I've read, so FYI, I have read all the StarCraft novels that range from the first game. I haven't started the StarCraft 2 novels yet. And as to my recollection, I think there's only 3 or 4 StarCraft 2 novels. There's a lot of comic books, though. StarCraft 1 has like 9 to 12 novels, and I've read all of those since April or something. And one of the best ones was the Minx one, surprisingly. And at the very end of the book, it kind of sets up the Brood War thing. It sets up a small scouting crew that goes to try to assassinate Minx, and Duran is over it. And they mention the U.E.D. to him. It's really funny because when they stop this small group, and one of the dying ghosts or something is like, "You won't stop. You won't be ready for the U.E.D." And he dies, and Minx is like grabbing his body like, "U.E.D. Who's the U.E.D.? Tell me who's the U.E.D." And he's dead. He can't tell him. But it mentions how Duran was part of that, and he sent them. I'll bet you they know. I bet you they have a good idea of what kind of character Minx is. But I don't think they so much care like we do on a moral level of who Minx is. I think this is just two powers colliding. Like, okay, Minx has a lot of assets and resources. He's a tyrant. Let's replace him with our own tyrant. I think that's kind of how they're viewing things. Even I'm not completely coming out and saying the U.E.D. are evil, but the U.E.D. have similar intentions that Minx does. Their whole purpose is to try to control the Zerg and turn into a weapon.
Yeah, I'll grant you that. That's. I mean, one thing I feel like StarCraft 1 tries to drill into your head very thoroughly is that the Terran are all kind of really morally bankrupt. Just to a man, almost. Yep. So, I mean, that part, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see why, later on we have a lot of the main characters teaming up to try and take them down. But I'm still like, if you have a bunch of enemies and they all have the same goal, shouldn't you just get rid of all of them? I don't know. It's not as easy as that, but I will say this. Even though I'm saying it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I think one thing that that they did a really good job with is finding a way to tell a very morally gray story, and to show like motivations play a big role in how people see the justice of their cause, and that's always fascinating when someone can do a good job of it. I mean, again, I still don't understand all the motivations, but I think that they managed to tell a pretty complex story, and that's been fun for me.
Good. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And when we finally actually finish Brood War, and next episode will be the ending of StarCraft, we can actually just fully talk about all of that. Talk about the unfolding, everything there goes. So, no, I agree. I think they did a good job. The story's interesting. So with that said, I will open up to the next conversation. This is one that I was particularly looking forward to, and I'll give my reasons why. So, the 7th level of this campaign, it's titled Patriot's Blood. Mm-hmm. This has always been my favorite level in the whole StarCraft 1 game, out of both StarCraft and Brood War. And I very exclusively remember why. And there's a lot of reasons. But let me tell you one. I'll tell you one specific reason. So, despite the fact that I mentioned how when I was younger, I thought this expansion was impossible to beat, this level I could beat without any cheats. And being, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the second to last level in the campaign.
Yep.
Being the second to last level in the Terran campaign, all the way into Brood War, being able to beat that without cheats as a kid, it just made me feel so cool. I was like, I may not be able to beat these harder levels, but I can beat this one. Like, this is my jam. And so I would always like play it. Like, even though I've played most of the Brood War once, seeing cheats, I've beaten this level as a kid probably like 10 or 20 times. Because it, first of all, it introduced a dynamic that I just found fun. I didn't have to waste time sitting there building and sitting. You're just in a facility. You're with a bunch of guys. It's very climactic with its narrative. You're just running around, trying to get information, killing people. There's humor. There's tons of violence. There's heavy references to Aliens, which is pound for pound my favorite film. it's basically a reference to sci-fi, horror, and action in general. But the whole level's just oozing with personality. I even believe. So you guys remember that part where there's two parts. One is which one's the any key?
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny as a kid. I always was laughing, and then you got the freaking Marines, Black threatening the civilians to give them the password, and then when they do, they just kill him.
He's like, "Don't shoot." Then you have a chance to kill him. He's
Oops. Yeah. Oops. After they just kill this guy, and he just laughs, and that's it. The guy's forgotten, and you keep going. So apparently, Chris Metzen voiced those Marines in that mission. That's what I'm reading. So. The other, and I was mentioning how it's a big reference to sci-fi in general. I don't know if I mentioned this in the first episode when we talked about Terran, but in those facility levels where you're obviously inside some kind of base or a science vessel, you'll notice how you'll go down these platforms, and to the side there's just these giant, never-ending cliffs. I'm like, oh, there's a Death Star right there. Like, that design was totally a Star Wars reference. Like, just a lot of cool little tidbits here and there, and then you go to that room where there's all these Zerg, like behind the door. There's just this huge wave of Zerglings, and you're like, wow, my little group of guys cannot fight that. But then he's like, I've got an idea, lure them in, and all the turrets come out the ground, and you just get to watch this whole group of Zerglings just get mowed down. You eventually meet up with other group of Terrans, and there's this giant fight where all these Marines are on the high ground, and there's like 20 Hydralisks below. Like, the map is just it's just an action film. It's an action sci-fi film. And so I just had a ball playing it every time. And to this day, it's still one of the most colorful, personality full levels within the game. So yeah, just throwing out my little fanboy there. I loved it. Oh, and then it has the countdown. It's got the whole like self-destruct thing. It's got it all. So sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was going to say it definitely felt like it was checking all of the boxes for, 90s sci-fi action, and along with all the banter that goes with it, the too cool for school kind of characterizations. Yeah, no, it was.
Yeah, the other quote was, "I like the smell of toasted Zerglings in the morning." Like, yeah, had it all. Remember when we were talking about how they kill the NPC for the password?
Mm-hmm.
And the NPC goes, "It's Farnham." So I one day was like, I wonder what that means. So I looked it up. There's a, I don't know if any of you ever looked at StarCraft Wiki. That place is huge.
There's a lot of info in there.
You could spend days reading information on just StarCraft, which blows my mind because StarCraft, compared to other gaming franchises, isn't that big. I guess it kind of is. StarCraft has had the treatment of having novels and comics, and so it is big, I guess you could say, but it doesn't have that many games. It's only 2 games, right? But that wiki page is huge. So I guess it's a testament to show how complex and deep the lore is to this game. But you can look up the password that civilian gives, Farnham. I guess it's a reference to an NPC in Diablo 1 character name.
Oh.
So, yeah. Huh. I didn't know that, but there you go.
The more you know.
Well, I guess it was a nice little Easter egg for Ultra Blizzard fans.
Yep. It's something that Ian probably would have picked up, but Jack and I didn't play Diablo 1, believe it or not. We started in Diablo 2.
Yeah.
If you played Diablo 2, good luck getting into Diablo 1. Like, you have to play Diablo 1 first, because Diablo 1 walked, so Diablo 2 literally ran. And that's not even a...
Yeah, that's not a joke.
Yeah, that's literal. You can only walk in Diablo 1. Yeah, so if I can put it that way.
And some upgrades that are just uncompromisable, you know?
Yep. And that's also the level where we are revealed that Duran is a traitor.
Well, where the people you're playing as learn it, because they're pretty heavy-handed with the player themselves.
Yes, that's a good point.
He's like, so I see no Zerg, Stukov.
Yeah.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, that little sneak, that Duran guy, man. And then Stukov dies, and like Anthony says, he was actually a pretty cool guy. And then that's when DuGalle realized. I'll never forget that. They got some good voice actors. What have I done? What have I done? It's all stressing out over that. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Duran is a pretty big character in StarCraft 2, isn't he, Jack?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yep.
He's not who you think he is.
All right.
Just say that.
He's as mysterious as he really leads on. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
There's a bonus level in the Zerg campaign that I'll have to have you do before we go to StarCraft 2. I'll set the stage.
And I found out what's really cool is I just finished reading the Dark Templar trilogy novel. That secret level's canon. Secret level is entirely referenced in that book, in that trilogy.
It's an 11th mission. It's in addition to the 10 that's already in the Zerg campaign.
Right.
Yeah, correct. And is this mission just for lore, or is it actually a real mission that's hard?
It's mostly just for lore. I don't think it's very hard.
Okay, all right.
And you play as the Protoss in it, like in the Zerg campaign, so it's kind of
cool.
Yeah.
Was a setup kind of thing.
It reveals some juicy foreshadowing for what's to come.
Okay.
So, and yes, the novels also, alongside StarCraft 1, make Duran a very shady, secretive character. So, yeah, we'll find out more about him when the plot continues to reveal itself.
Well, he's certainly got a lot of question marks in my head.
Yeah.
Anyway.
How can I be of service?
Because I'm still sitting here being like, okay, well, he's pandering to Kerrigan, but he sure doesn't look infested. So
yeah, as a kid, that was always my biggest holdup. I'm like, what kind of compare him to the infested Terrans? I'm like, so I kind of made it up in my head. I'm like, he must be like this super advanced form of parasite that's in his brain. But we'll just let the game show more.
Yep.
So, yeah, we'll do that. So
he sounds infested in like the Zerg campaign, but
he does. You can hear his voice sounding infested, so I will say that. So that leads us to the last level, where we get to fight that infamous Taurus skill. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Well, it's like the Trask or something, because I think that's like probably a D&D reference.
Yeah, so that goes back to an ancient mythological monster in myth. It's not even starting. So Trask, I always pronounce it Torskill, but I could be absolutely butchering it.
Yeah, I think it's Trask or something. I know
we'll
it's
use
in D&D a lot, kind of as like this ultimate
Yep,
monster.
It basically just means like giant, like it can mean a lot of things, but it's basically a behemoth, which is another mythical creature. So yeah, it's funny because as a kid, I love monsters. I always love like big monsters. So the concept of a super ultralisk absolutely appealed to me. As a kid, I loved that, and I always remember thinking that was the coolest thing ever. But that memory, no joke, slipped my mind for decades, if you want to call it. So when I got to that last level, just doing my thing, and I remember they said we're under attack, and so I looked and I saw an ultralisk, and I had like 3 siege tanks, 2 bunkers. I was like, whatever, and I start going back to building stuff, and it's still saying an attack, and I look and like 2 of my bunkers are destroyed, one of the tanks destroyed, and they're like, this thing's crazy. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I click it, and when I saw his stats, I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, and then he dies, and then all of a sudden I hear him growl again, and I was like, no, this is going to be an awful level.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was pretty similar. I had, I dealt with enough ultralisks that I'm like, okay, I've got several siege tanks, I've got a bunker, I've got some good support, I think I'll be okay. And it blew my mind when I was like, that thing just deleted my bunker. Like, it's gone. and everything was dying, and I'm like, this thing, its health is like hardly going down. I was so frustrated because at that point I didn't know what was coming, and so I'd saved in a spot that was basically soft locked for me. So the only thing I could do to fend it off was I restarted the level, and I fast tracked straight to battle cruisers, and I made sure I had at least 2. I think maybe 3 when it arrived that second try, and I just Yamato'd it to oblivion. And that was the only way. Only way that I didn't lose like my entire base to this piece of crap. So then at that point, all I would do is I kept making more and more battle cruisers, making sure they had, there was at least 1 or 2 that had a Yamato ready, and then I would just slowly move them along, trying to catch the Tarrasque, or however you say it, and I just beelined straight for the stupid thing's nest and blew it up. And once that thing was gone, easy peasy.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's like a breath of fresh air. Once you kill that, you're like, okay, this is gonna be easy now.
So what I did, I just made a million siege tanks to where he wasn't even a problem anymore.
maybe I just needed more.
I did the same exact thing Anthony did. I couldn't believe it, but you needed at least 2 Yamato cannons for him. And between like 12 battle cruisers, you could cycle them out. So that's 6 charge ups. And by the time he comes 6 times, you basically have infinite loop of Yamato cannons. But yeah, I basically did what Anthony did. I just built a giant group of battle cruisers and fended him off with those, and then just slowly made my way up there and took that thing out. What's funny, I just mentioned this here, is that the same time I beat this level, on the same day, I was also building, mind you, I have StarCraft battlecruiser mega blocks that I was building. So I was like, this is so cool. I'm using the battlecruisers to beat this Terran campaign, and I'm literally building this StarCraft battlecruiser. So if anybody is listening to this, you're wondering, wait, what? There is I remember Ian and I were talking about how, like, why didn't they make StarCraft Legos? Well, they didn't make StarCraft Legos brand-wise, but Mega Blocks during, I think it was the 2011 BlizzCon, made 3,000 of these really fancy, couple $100 battlecruiser Mega Blocks. That really big, elaborate, nice piece. I mean, I'll obviously show some pictures here on the video, but it exists. There is one StarCraft Lego out there that's a battlecruiser, and it looks awesome.
And Alex has one, and you don't. So
yeah, I guess bad us. I don't know. We're just
no. If anybody's watching this and they have it, please tell me what number your battlecruiser is, because your box tells you out of the 3,000 which number it is. Be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know you separate the fans from the ultra fans.
Yeah, there's a good way of putting it.
All I have is this little tiny, carrier replica.
In all fairness, I did not get this battlecruiser originally at BlizzCon. My wife got it for me on eBay for my birthday back in July. And she just happened to find a really good deal on it. StarCraft everything, StarCraft merchandise, is all very affordable right now, and it's because it's trending nowhere. This game has technically been dead for quite a few years. So all this StarCraft stuff that I have, its price would probably skyrocket the minute StarCraft 3 is announced. If that ever happens. Yeah. So keep that in mind. So yeah, it's a good time to buy some StarCraft stuff if you're a mega fan, you've been thinking about it. Going in back into this U.E.D. campaign, I think we covered most everything here, other than there was the last cinematic. The last cinematic, which was it was similar to the final cinematic on the Terran campaign in the first game. What we found is that the Terran, they love their propaganda. They love their news channels, and they love telling everybody that everything's going to be fine and everything's groovy and gravy, when in reality it's not. It's not, but that's happens when you have these giant armadas and factions led by tyrants. So their goal is to control a new Overmind, control the Zerg. We'll see if that pays off in the next We'll see if that pays off in the next chapter.
Yeah. And in the cinematic, they do completely just lie about Stukov's death to the people.
Yes,
Make
they
him a
do.
hero.
Yes, they
I mean, in the end, I guess he is really a hero, because without him keeping the side destructor, they wouldn't be able to get the Overmind. But they completely wash over what happened
Yes.
in reality at his death.
You could argue that he did do a heroic act there. He could have, to them, he could have been a hero. He did what he was positioned to do, but they totally spun and twisted and lied about his death, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yep. And that was also, goes without saying, that cinematic had big references to Starship Troopers.
Oh, definitely.
Yep. Let's just be honest here. StarCraft wouldn't exist if Starship Troopers didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never watched. I think that's a TV series, right, or something.
It's originally a novel. It's originally a science fiction novel that they made a movie off of in the 80s or early 90s, and it has greatly influenced sci-fi gaming. Like Warhammer wouldn't exist with Warhammer, and everything got inspiration off.
Yeah, Warhammer 40K was basically, almost like everything. I think Aliens probably wasn't that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like how Dune made walked so Star Wars could run. Similarly, Starship Troopers mixed with Alien is what gave us Warhammer, and everything kind of takes inspiration and mixes it up, right? But StarCraft is doing everything that these guys did, and it take a huge bite out of Starship Troopers.
Yeah. Now Dune's taking a bite out of Star Wars now, though.
Yeah,
it's all come full circle.
So,
yep.
The sign of the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail.
There you go. Yeah, it's basically, the best way to put it is Starship Troopers really brought out the whole Marines versus bug science. Marines versus bug sci-fi war.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
big
they're the
bugs.
ones that did that first.
Yep. So yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add?
The only other thing I will say is that Terran versus Terran sucks.
It really does.
Just so you know, I mean, I don't even know why I have cloaked units when I'm playing those, and it feels like I think the majority, if not all, of the Terran campaign in Brood War is Terran versus Terran. And I'm just like,
it sucks.
At least I learned how to counter their counters too, because once I realized, they're just going to comsat me every time. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna hotkey a comsat myself. There was several missions where I just was comsatting everything because they were really trying hard. But oh my gosh, cloaking is pointless.
It sometimes feels like it. I'll say this. I honestly feel that cloaking has its merits so well when you're fighting another player.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's another player, then they can't. They don't have intimate knowledge of exactly where your cloaked unit is. Like that's a piece of that's basically, just by virtue of the AI's capabilities, it can cheat. That's a
exactly.
Yeah. Like, your ghost attacks, and it's just
insta-killed.
Instantly, it's comsatted, and it's like, how do you know that?
You could do psychological tactics against a human player as a Terran. If you just sent one single cloaked ghost and started shooting their building, and then walk off, because now they're like, I'm being attacked, but where? And now it completely throws them in this, like, he's going to nuke me, or he has all these cloaked guys, but you're just tickling them with a ghost, and it could throw them into a whole different mindset. That's the kind of stuff you could do to a human. But like Jack said, you tickle an NPC, and it's like, oh, I found you. Just like, that's not cloak.
You're like, comsats right where your ghost is. It's like, so exact.
And it's like the instant you even step. Well, I mean, the moment you fire a single bullet, it's like, comsat.
It's like, the truth of the matter is, the only reason he uses it is because he cannot physically attack you because he can't see you, but he knows you're there. So it's like he
Right.
knows exactly where you are. So it's like I'm not cloaked. I'm just invincible. That's really the difference here. Is I'm invincible. He just is getting rid of my invincibility if the comms at. So dumb.
Yeah, no, like I said, I did get pretty decent at it, but still, there was times when I'm like, okay, I hear a wraith firing on something. Where's the thing that's getting fired on? I'm like, having to look around, and then I'm like, all right, let's see. I think about here, and then sometimes I'd miss. I'm like, oh, anyway, it's frustrating.
Oh my gosh! You know what? This is one more thing I will mention. It was that last level with the Torresk or whatever. I sometimes the Terran units blend in with the environment and their buildings, and I think you're white. I think your Terran units are white on that last level. Correct me. I'll correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a legit moment where I knew I had a dropship, and I needed it to move an SCV or whatever. I couldn't find my dropship. I literally couldn't find it. I sat there looking and looking. I'm like, like this is straight up the kind of stuff that a computer never has problems with. I spent like 2 minutes like, where is it? And then I did find it, but talk about like such wasted time.
Oh, I just lost a dropship today, and I was like, I guess I'll use this other one far away. And then I bring my dropship, and I look over, and there's the dropship right next to the SBO on the used.
Yeah, because that's one thing StarCraft 2 absolutely fixes. The units blend. No, the units do not blend with the environment.
That's good.
Like, yeah, the units you could tell are units because they're moving and stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's a true 3D environment versus this like simulated.
Yep.
That's good. So. I will say, the thing I had to learn to do when I was looking for a particular unit, and they either were blending or they were mixed in with a bunch of other units, is I just like, all right, wireframe time. Let's see. All right there. So,
yep. Well, thank you guys so much for getting on. We're going to try to, we'll golly, I don't have much else to say. The next episode is the ending of the game, so I'm looking forward to it. So appreciate for anybody who's tuned in. If you have anything else to add about the U.E.D. that we missed or anything you just want to say, go ahead and throw it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time for the final episode where we talk about one of the most iconic characters in video game history. We're going to focus on Sarah Kerrigan.
Dun,
so,
dun,
dun, dun,
Dun, dun,
dun.
dun.
And other than just that, I'm looking forward to seeing how Brood War ends. I will do my best not to delay this episode too much with my lack of skills.
All right, just make more Zerglings.
Bum, bum, bum. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.